Who is this irresistible creature who has an insatiable love for the dead?
You know, it's Halloween. I guess everyone's a little bit scared.
Stop the prime time, bitch!
Do you want to die, Sydney? Your mother sure didn't.
Cookie, I'm scared.
You fucking should be.
What happened? Are you okay?
He's slime.
Don't let her get away, Mother. Don't let her live. I won't, Jesus. I won't.
Fight him! You're not afraid of him. He doesn't even exist.
Freddy Krueger is back on Elm Street.
Get out of here, Lisa!
Jesse, fight him!
Watch out for him. He'll be in your neighborhood soon. A Nightmare on Elm Street, Part 2.
You are all my children now.
Freddy's Revenge.
Welcome back to year 1 of Nerd Nation Spooktacular. Tonight we're talking about A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Freddy's Revenge. I've seen a lot of hate for A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Freddy's Revenge. So as someone who's not a huge fan of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, where do I land on this movie? Well, I think it's alright. I don't hate this movie, however, I do think it's probably one of the weaker installments in this franchise, and definitely a huge step down from the first movie. Fair warning, this review will contain some spoilers, you have been warned. Like the first Nightmare on Elm Street movie, Freddy's Revenge has really good pacing. The movie's only 85 minutes long and it never really gets boring. It's always entertaining, regardless if what you're watching is actually good or just completely insane. The tone of Freddy's Revenge is also great. It keeps the original tone of the first movie. It feels even more like a Goosebumps episode, in a good way. Even though I don't love the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, they are perfect watches around Halloween because they give you that Halloween feel. The characters in Freddy's Revenge are okay. Jesse is an interesting protagonist and certainly different from the rest of this franchise, but he's definitely not as good as Nancy, and I think he's pretty underdeveloped. Freddy Krueger is pretty good in here. He's still somewhat scary like he was in the first movie, and even though you can tell the campiness has been turned up, he still has some frightening moments where you wouldn't want this guy to come chasing after you. And of course, Robert Englund is always good as Freddy. The man has never turned in a bad performance as him. The rest of the characters are alright. They're the average people you'd expect to be in a slasher movie with no real development and just bodies for Freddy Krueger to hack up. There's not really much to say about them because honestly, Jesse and Freddy are the only ones I really remember. The one thing that's an improvement over the first one in Freddy's Revenge is the ending. The ending is much better than the first, and it feels more natural because it's hinted at the very beginning of this movie. The ending makes a lot more sense, and it's honestly pretty enjoyable. It's probably one of the better endings in this series. Now, of course, you can't talk about Freddy's Revenge without talking about the homoerotic themes present in this movie. There are many hints to those themes in this movie. There's many shirtless men in a bedroom together. Our main character, Jesse, always wakes up shirtless and sweaty. And a man dies in this movie by being stripped and then spanked on the bare butt multiple times. On one hand, I think it's really cool that these themes are in this movie, especially since this movie came out almost 40 years ago. It's really cool to see homoerotic themes thriving in a big slasher movie like this. But on the other hand, I couldn't help but feel it felt a little undercooked. It doesn't feel very relevant to the story overall, and it feels like they were too afraid to officially label Jesse as gay. I feel like if they were going to go for these certain themes, they should have committed all the way or not done them at all. But that's just my opinion. I just couldn't help but feel like the themes could have been handled better. Now we get to the negatives of this movie, and I have 2 major negatives for this movie. My first one is that it's just too weird for my liking. Don't get me wrong, I know the Nightmare on Elm Street movies were supposed to be weird, but this movie just kind of took it too far for me, to the point where many scenes that were meant to be taken seriously had me laughing out loud. Freddy coming out of a guy's chest isn't really what I come to a Nightmare on Elm Street movie for. Sure, it's unique, and the practical effects are amazing, but it's not really something I'd care to see in a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. My other biggest issue with this movie is its story. It's not very good. It barely even feels like a story. It feels like events are just happening randomly the entire movie. It doesn't really feel like there's any story to it. And the story that is here, I'm not a huge fan of. I don't like the fact that Jesse is sort of linked to Freddy. It just feels pretty dumb to me, and it doesn't make much sense. I think Freddy is much scarier when he's on his own. Overall, A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Freddy's Revenge is okay. I don't love this movie, but I also don't hate it. However, it is a big step down from the first movie and probably one of the weakest in this series. I'm going to give A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Freddy's Revenge a C. Well guys, thanks so much for watching this video. I'll have the final video in this series on Thursday, so make sure to stay tuned for that. With that said, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.